Welcome back. I've got Lisa Levy on the line. Lisa, how are you today?
Michael, I am great. How are you?
I am doing really well for this Wednesday, and I had to check my watch to see what day it was at the time of this recording, which may release on a Monday, but not to confuse people, we recorded this on a Wednesday, so don't get your hopes up if you're listening to this on a Monday. But really appreciate your time today. I want you to share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Absolutely. I am Lisa L. Levy. I'm the founder of L Cubed Consulting, and I am the preferred disruption and innovation catalyst. The practice at the company at L Cubed is all about helping businesses align their people, their process, and enabling with technology. Because with that equation, and the equation really is people plus process times technology equals growth and scale, equals effectiveness and efficiency, equals anything that you positively want to change in your business. If you put those three things together, we can do anything.
It's a beautiful equation. I think a lot of people have that math kind of twisted around a little bit, and instead of leveraging or multiplying by technology, they make the technology the asset basically, and then they go, well, we'll just have our people adapt to it. It's like, no, you start with your people and what you can do with them, and leverage that because again, if you and you know this when you have people that you touch their mind and their heart on what you're doing as an organization, and they agree with it and they see their role in doing amazing things, then the technology, they'll leverage it, but they're still utilizing that human element of it. And even with AI and all the tech stuff that we have now, the human element is the differentiator, quite frankly.
It is. And if we don't really understand our people and our processes and we leverage technology, we get something. And I'd love to take credit for this next phrase, but I stole it from a friend. But when we lead with the technology, we get something we call super fast bad. And so whatever isn't working in your current environment, if you don't have that process running right and you enable it with technology, you're going to amplify every pitfall, every shortcoming, every pain point that your team and your customers experience. Technology will just make it worse.
Well, even with AI, what we're getting is we're getting quicker mediocrity in a lot of things because people say, and you can see it too. I mean, there's some things, and I've used it as well, and I'll look at it like, ooh, that looks cheap, or it doesn't look right. Let me change that, or let me, if it's clip art, for example, it's like, all right, why don't let's go pay for a piece and then post that instead of the AI generated stuff or even content or anything else. It's yes, we can crank out things fast. That's awesome. But super fast bad, I love that's a great descriptor. They should definitely trademark that. Get a hold of the trademark office and jump on that because a lot of people are using super fast bad, not only in output and reports and things like that, but also in leadership. And that's created a huge dynamic that we're seeing in the workforce. And, we've seen, and I know you have too, the recent Gallup report, and, the amount of disengaged employees, and that impacts all of us. I was like, okay, so people are checked out at work. What's the big deal about us? Like, well, the products and services that these companies are making aren't good, and you buy that, and so as a society, we need to get our heads around that and figure out, okay, how do we make these organizations better for all involved? I One of the things I want to make sure, and crystal clear from my point of view, I don't like pointing fingers at ownership or management. I don't like pointing fingers at the employees, but collectively we all have to come together to figure out how do we make work for everybody involved. And those conversations are happening in a few organizations, but nowhere near to the level they need to. And that's why your work is so critically important.
Yeah, and you teased into something there that I'd like to play with, and I will point fingers at large organizations because large organizations, the Fortune 500, the CEOs of the Fortune 10, get a lot of media and they get a lot of coverage, and they're talking about things, their return to office, butts and seats, all of these things that for the middle market, for small businesses. We know that status quo, that the way we did things before the pandemic, that reality is not necessarily the sustainable way forward. Every business and every set of leaders has to understand their employees, their environment, create a culture that works for them. There is no one silver bullet right answer for everybody. And there are companies that have been 100% remote for 20 years. And they're thriving because they've built a culture and it works for them. There are roles in organizations that will always require being in the office, whether it's a bank teller, a nurse, a doctor, right? There are roles that require one-on-one human interaction and you have to be present. But as leaders, we can't just cross our fingers and hope that we're going to find that one equation that's going to make a difference, because it's going to be different for everybody. And that's a painful reality, but it's true. And for those CEOs who have the media coverage that are out there saying, get everybody has to be back in the office, I fly a big old BS flag on that, because no, that isn't the answer for everybody. And even in those environments, their world has changed. Their offices are smaller, their footprint is smaller. They don't have desks for everybody, right? And they're making these big sweeping mandates and it's not working. So, what do we do with that as leaders?
And that's a big, important question, and a very similar stat to what I shared earlier. 52% of the Fortune 500 companies from the year 2000 are also gone. So based on those stats, five of those 10 companies that are saying butts and seats, statistically speaking, in the next quarter century, will be gone if averages play out. And the ones that are demanding this, especially if that workforce doesn't demand that type of situation where they need to be in the office all the time, they're going to have some key knowledge leaving. They're going to go, you know what, we're out. No, I'll go work for this other company. Yes, I'll take the pay cut, but you know what? Guess what? I can work from home or work remotely, and I'm more productive than I am in the office because I'm not getting interrupted every 20 seconds. And we know, how long it takes us to get our focus back after getting interrupted. And, that varies from a few minutes to maybe an hour, depending on what kind of work you're doing. Well, if you get interrupted 20 times a day, there's the reason why you're not able to get any work done. And the way the work doesn't work anymore. And you said that. And, I hammer this home, and I always, put the little warning label on this. I'm originally from Detroit, so what I'm about to say is blasphemy, but we need to say goodbye to Henry Ford. The Henry Ford way of working, especially in office settings, never should have been implemented, in my opinion, and certainly doesn't belong in 2025. But too many organizations, especially, and I'm not trying to be age biased or anything like that, but you look at the ages of those executives that are at that level, and they've long career, they've ascended to that level. Their viewpoint of what the world looks like is dramatically different from what the world actually looks like, and they're disconnected. And when they're not interested in communicating and learning about what's going on in the world, therefore, we see the dynamics that we see, and we see why 7 out of 10 employees are disengaged at work, and 20 something percent of those disengaged are toxically disengaged to the point where they're poisoning organizations. And as a leader, you're in mid management, you're relatively new as a manager, and you're trying to navigate all of this. You've got a workforce that simply doesn't believe in what you're doing, won't listen, they don't care. They're physically there, but are they producing? No, because they're like, screw it, it's not worth it. And when you have that, that is contagious. That's worse. I mean, that's, quite frankly, that is a pandemic in itself. And we see it in so many different organizations. And as consumers, it's going to catch up. And that's not going to be a pleasant experience for any of us, because we're going to realize real quick, that this version of whatever we're buying is nowhere near the quality it used to be. And we go, well, why is that? Well, the people that are working at that particular organization, quite frankly, they don't care. And they're not motivated or disciplined to care based on all of the factors that we see in the workplace today.
And so, with all of that, there are a couple of things, right? I think we have the beginning of the journey and we have the end of the journey that are interesting. At the beginning of that journey, right, that idea of how do we build, how do we grow, how do we make sure that our leaders are leading? And going back to the people plus process times technology equation, for that to drive forward, I believe that there needs to be an inherent focus on innovation inside of every business. That what we do today is not going to sustain us tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. Things change too fast. The rate of change in our world today is faster than it's ever been, and it's just going to keep increasing. So, how do we build leaders and set the foundation for that growth and that change? And I think that innovation is the way to do that. I think that building an innovation process into a business gives us the ability to leverage people. And in this part of the conversation, people are our employees for sure, but more importantly, there are our customers and our clients. What do they want? What do they need from us? Do they see value in what we're giving them? And so, if we start to understand that and empower our employees, our people inside to share ideas, wouldn't it be nice if it would be really cool if we could do right, fill in the blank and let them share those ideas? Because if you're a founder or a division head or middle management, you have some ideas, but if you amplify that by every employee in your organization, you have more. And when it comes to ideas, more is better. This is not about quality, this is about quantity, because you want to play with those ideas and tease and test and say, gosh, that really crazy idea can save this business and help us grow for the next 5 years. That is the beginning of setting up everybody in the organization to be invested in the outcome, to be connected to what our clients and our customers need. It all starts so simply with an idea. And then taking those ideas on purpose and playing with them, creating what I'll call a conference room prototype where it's a thought exercise, 10 people, 5 people playing with the craziest idea to see what it might take to make that real. And if there are some things in that thought exercise that are valuable, taking that and maybe investing a little bit of time and a little bit of money, and heaven forbid, talking with your customers and clients and testing that idea to see what's possible. So, this is an innovation engine and something that I do with my clients, but it's something every business can do, regardless of how big or how small. You can do this pocket of this exercise, and it costs time before you put money into R&D and all of those other things, because the statistics show in R&D, by the time you've developed everything, at the very end of that, you've lost 50% of the potential value of that thing when it goes to market. What if you did a little bit more thought work at the beginning and changed that to you've only lost 10% or possibly 20%, and those products and services have more value? That constant flow of ideas also is what helps you drive growth curves. Every product and service has a natural life expectancy. They don't go on forever. We aren't still riding horses. We aren't still driving a Model T. If I had my answer, I'd be in a Ferrari. But right, these change. And by the way, right, my Ferrari might be electric, depending on how you want to look at what's coming in the world, right, and what that means. But if we have a constant inflow of new ideas, when we're getting ready to sunset something, we have something to replace it. Or we have three somethings to replace it so that we don't hit that plateau and our business continuously grows on purpose.
And that's critically important. I had a conversation earlier today with Barry LeBeouf, and he's been in the marketing game for 4 decades. And one of the things we talked about was, marketing. A lot of people think, okay, you're marketing your customers. Here's what we do. Here's why we're the best, and all of that. But organizations need to do marketing internally as well, and they have to really clearly articulate why we are here together and how important each of us are in order to create things. We have to be disruptive internally and externally, because for every company, there's dozens that are doing quote unquote a similar thing. I don't want to say the same thing because everyone has variances on what they do, but you have to disrupt the industry. And we think about the organizations that have been extremely successful over history. What did they do? They disrupted, the car, the iPhone, technology, innovation, science, how we do things. video, working remotely. There, we can provide countless examples of it. But the key component is understanding, where your people are and creating this environment where people feel safe and also comfortable to share ideas and concepts, because some of the greatest innovations that we've seen came out of an idea. The story of 3M and the post-it notes. That glue wasn't working for what they wanted to do, and all of a sudden, how many bazillion dollars is 3M made off of those? It was, I don't want to say an accident, but it was something that didn't work out like they did. And I said, well, maybe we can use it for something like this and change the world as far as how we use notes. And that's just a singular example. And within every organization, those ideas are in there. You just have to find them. You got to create an environment to, plant the seeds and see what happens. And when you have organizations that are like that, that's when you see magic. That's when you see just, amazing experiences in organizations where yeah, people are thinking about work, but not because they're burned out and overwhelmed by their workloads. They're thinking about things because they're so excited and they're so enthralled in what they're creating. When you work in an environment like that, it's it is such an amazing experience. And even as a consultant, working in those organizations and seeing that come to be is it's just you wish you could bottle it up. It's such an amazing thing, but it's something that it's within every organization if you create the ingredients for it to happen.
Yes, and the innovation engine, right, is just a starting point, because then what you start to see are individuals who have fantastic leadership capability. They're the ones who are shouting the loudest and engaging and building consensus around ideas and growing that. And so you're starting to decentralize some decision making. You're growing leaders and you're helping them step into roles where you, as a founder, as a division head, you aren't responsible for making every decision. You now have self-reliant leaders who are growing around you who can do more because they're connected to the outcome, to that why. We all need to have the why. If we don't have a what's in it for me, you're not going to get anybody to do anything. But right, as you leverage that energy from innovation, you grow leaders. And with that, you also, we started earlier on that end when people are actually leaving, right? Succession planning. It's not a sexy topic, but oh my gosh, is it critical to every environment to understand who is going to replace me when I do the next thing. And if you are a founder and a CEO, right, how can you take a 30-day vacation and know your business is going to work and grow and do all of the things you want it to do without you being there? It's absolutely possible. And for anybody who says, I have too much to do, I can't take a vacation without checking my phone while I'm on holiday, I got my BS flag and I'm flying it, because we have the ability to do things better. And so we can grow that workforce in to lead without you. And that's fabulous, because really, as we start getting into our strategic roles and we are division heads and we're founders and we're CEOs and we're SVPs of something, we're supposed to be looking towards the future and not running the business. And so it's really critical that we build that foundation of people who can lead, who are self-reliant to do that, and that we have the people and the processes and the documentation set so that we have succession planning as part of that culture, right? So this business is innovation forward. It has well-defined processes and procedures so that work continues and you can onboard new people easily. And work continues without the leaders directing day-to-day operations. It may sound like I'm describing a utopian situation. These businesses exist. And some of my clients, and you'll laugh, are government agencies, and they're doing this really well. Some of my clients have been small businesses, and we've built it from the ground up with this mindset. I've worked inside of large organizations, small organizations. We can take bits and pieces of all of this and make teams perform. Because if we treat our people as the capable individuals we hired, rather than constraining them with a job description and measurements against it that isn't, may not actually be meaningful, and we treat them like they're stupid rather than brilliant, we can change anything anywhere.
I love how you said that, hiring people and letting them do their job, and be creative in how they do it. And yeah, that's the thing I see a lot with entrepreneurs and, well, even solopreneurs. They're doing everything, but even entrepreneurs, when they start building a team, that founder disease or founder syndrome, whatever you want to call it, is they don't want to let go. And I've seen it. You see it a lot in nonprofit, but you see it in for-profit organizations as well, where the founder is one. So, the board has told me we need to hire a new CEO, and all of a sudden that founder is literally, if they were a skin suit, they'd be wrapping around you just to try to control everything you do. It's like, no, you have to let people do things their own way. And even, at the time of this recording, we, had the announcement this last weekend about Warren Buffett, planning to step away from being CEO of Berkshire at the end of this year, 2025. And a lot of people were like, what's this mean? And, they're second in command. They've been prepping this individual for a long time. And because
Years.
this day is coming, Warren had it, the board had it, and even after the shareholder meeting, they're interviewing some of the board members that were hearing it for the very first time when Mr. Buffett announced it. They went on air and they said, "We've been preparing this for a long time. We knew eventually this day would come. We know it says. We know we believe in this. They're doing a great job. They'll bring in their own insights, talking about the incoming CEO, their own insights, their own ideas and things like that. We're very thankful that the Warren has offered for, some insights if needed, but my hunch is Warren is going to take a step back and just, if you need me, I'm here, but I'm letting you do what you do." And I think that's so critically important for organizations, whether it's a succession plan or you're hiring somebody to take over your marketing. Let them do what they're gifted at, because I know this is an ego hit for many leaders. Majority of the time, the people doing what you used to do it better than you did. And I'm not knocking your skills. Your skills are amazing. You keep growing. You're learning new skills, because going from a doer to a leader, that's not an easy step. That takes a lot of effort and learning and unlearning and everything else. Hire people that are better than you, that'll crush it. You're going to benefit from it. They're going to benefit from it. The organization will benefit it. And quite frankly, society benefits from it.
Absolutely.
So, Lisa, I love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and this amazing work you're doing?
Absolutely. The easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. It's Lisa L. Levy. And I'm sorry, but yep, that middle initial is important. It makes it easier for you to find me. But Michael, I would really love to make an offer to your audience. I think that it's a great group and we've had a fabulous conversation. And so I know that what I'm doing resonates, and I'd like to make this available to those leaders out there who are just a little tired, right? They feel like they're doing everything, but they know that there are people around them who can help. They just don't know how to get them to where they need to be. So I want to offer two elements out of my Self-Reliant Leadership Program. The first one is the Innovation Engine Blueprint that talks about in more detail what I sort of ran through very quickly. It's an article that you can read and glean insights that you can actually use today, tomorrow, the next day, put it to work for you. But if that really resonates for you, I'd also love to sit down and schedule what I call an innovation clarity call. I'll spend an hour with you. You will talk about what you're going through, what some of those obstacles and challenges are, and I'll give you actionable insights that you can apply to jumpstart innovation or to help developing your leaders into becoming self-reliant. All you have to do is message me inside of LinkedIn, drop the word innovation. That's all you need to do. Lisa L. Levy. And you can also check out my podcast, disruptandinnovate.com. It's out there on all of the platforms, and we have wonderful conversations much like this one.
Awesome. I'll definitely have that in the show notes. And thank you so much for that generous offer. And I encourage everybody to take advantage of that, because you're doing great work. I know the people that listen to the show and the organizations that catch the show, I know you're doing some great things, but guess what? You you still have to grow. There's going to be some great things that you're going to get to do, but sometimes the version of you today is not going to serve you tomorrow. So learn to be, a little bit better every time, and working with Lisa and her team is going to be really, really beneficial. So, Lisa, again, thank you for that, and thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you for the opportunity.